want to talk to you about changing the social norms that affect the world. So I want to up the ante a little bit. If any of you have been to my office, you'll know that I have maps everywhere. I have XKCD maps of every possible state of the internet. I have Russian expressionist artist maps. I have some of those Fernando Viega wind maps of Hurricane Sandy, but I'm obsessed with how we sort of chart our path and think about both physical and digital spaces in map form. One thing we don't have a map for is how we think about two things Oris mentioned, the digital revolution and social identity. So we've had this giant revolution. Students have Twitter accounts, they have Facebook accounts, they have personal social identities, and the university has an institutional social identity. And there are good things about that, and there are clunky things about that, but they're springing up all over, so we have to figure out how we interact between those two. And one of the big questions I have is, what's fair game around students? I mean, there are clear use cases like purple blocks, where you know people are ruled in or ruled out. But how do we think about using institutional social media to amplify individual social media voice? And I'm really interested in a lot of the stuff that comes out of your project, because it's, you know, a lot of that thinking informs what we do. One of the cool things about our project is we have a giant test bed, right? We have huge lists of faculty who are now using social media, and I can sort of measure the rise of the internet by how many faculty sheepishly reach out and say, you know, I think the social stuff is kind of dumb, but I'm up for tenure, so could Harvard follow me on Twitter? So you realize there's a lot of power behind that voice, but what does it make sense to do with it? What's fair, what's not fair? And how do you unring a bell, right? That to me is a real question. If I'm at an athletic event and people are, you know, tweeting out, you know, students' Twitter handles, and then I go and see things on their feed, like, can I unsee that? Should I unsee that? What should the relationship between institution and individual be in this social space? I really like the fact that Jeffrey and his team had a debate about space. It was your team, or maybe it was Colin's team, had a debate about what is space. Because to me, that's a big question. What is Harvard in this digital sphere? Obviously, you know, we've done some smart stuff, but I don't kid myself, we started on third base with the brand. But we have these giant social media channels and audiences. So today we have like 350,000 followers on SoundCloud. Like I went for a cup of coffee and came back and, you know, we had all these assets. So how do we think about social sharing between institutions and individuals? How do we think about individual identity? How do we think about it now? We're launching a big project with Harvard College Admissions, which you'll hear about this fall. And how do we think about it for perspective, as well as existing students? So I don't know, how many of you were aware of what happened with virtual Visitas this year? So this year, every year there's a physical event on campus where admitted students come to meet each other and to go to events, and it was the day of the manhunt from the marathon bombings. So it was closed down. So we're up sending email all night long. Yes, it's on. No, it's off. Yes, it's on. No, it's off. Finally, no, it was off. And you know, we had reached out to a bunch of faculty and staff saying, can you reach out to these students, you know, using the hashtag Visitas 2013, and that turned into virtual Visitas. And students were tremendously engaged. Some of our own college students represented here, and some, you know, faculty just hopped on. And what does that mean about all that engagement? How much should the institution be involved in that, if at all? I do think the fact that we preceded it made it successful, but when do you step in and when do you step out? So I think there's no map for this stuff, right? We're all figuring out as it goes along, so I really look forward to using this project and working with the team here and with all of you more broadly to say, as we try and figure out what these social norms are, whether it's from research, whether it's from our giant test bed, whether it's from millennial experiences, you know, what will the outputs be from this project? You know, we're thinking maybe it's case studies, maybe it's use cases. I like Colin's answer of it's yes, it's all of those things. But I think we have a great opportunity to try something new and to try and figure out these social norms around the institution and individual in a place like Harvard.